Cereal, the illusion of choice. Supermarkets are a staple in the lives of almost every person in modern cities. For as often as we go to them, and as much money as we spend in them, our knowledge of them is very limited. The supermarket I'm exploring today is No Frills. No Frills is owned by Loblaw Companies Limited. With over 200 franchise stores in Canada, they have their original brand of No Name that has over 2,500 products. And of course the premium line that is called President's Choice. And of course more stores contain a pharmacy and they offer prescriptions as well. Now that we know the supermarket, we're going to focus on our specific aisle. And for me, that's the cereal aisle. There are several reasons why cereal is the food that I wanted to explore. Before looking at any metrics or numbers, the sole reason why I picked it is because I love cereal. All of the different varieties, the different flavors, the simplicity, the hassle-free consumption, with only having the dishes being a bowl and a spoon, the taste of the milk after you finish your cereal, and the flavor that has developed within it, all amazing. So what is the best thing to do with something that you love so much is to learn as much as possible and explore the industry itself. It is fairly clear from the labeling that there are a couple of giant corporations that own the majority of the popular cereals. Each of these companies have several brands that are extremely popular. I knew this even before entering the supermarket. I've always been interested in what companies produce which products, specifically the big conglomerates that own almost every brand that we consume. These companies basically run the global food industry, and their products reach almost every corner of the planet. The supermarket tour Aisle 5 explores the biggest cereal brands, which include Kellogg, General Mills, as well as those that produce a variety of other products, such as PepsiCo. My expectation was immediately that most of the cereals that I pick will be a part of those big companies. What I didn't expect is that the connection is not always that obvious. Of course, for each of the brands there is a mark on the box that immediately gives it away. The red K, the blue G, and so on are logos that we have become used to over time. I created this diagram that highlights ownership, and you can see how little choice we really have when it comes to choosing brands of cereal. My second biggest observation was that not only that the majority of cereals I saw immediately were the most popular brands, but also that they were placed there multiple times. The supermarket tour went over the fact that shelf space does not come easy, and that companies always compete for the most valuable spots, those being at eye level. Yet, just from this picture you see Nesquik, Lucky Charms, Fruit Loops, Reese Puffs, and my favorite, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, are all there twice. The next section follows the same trend with Frosted Flakes, Corn Pops, which are both owned by Kellogg's. There is a whole section dedicated to Cheerios, which is owned by General Mills, and this is no surprise as it was the #1 selling brand in the US last year. Now we see something interesting. Looking closer, we see the same type of President's Choice brands beside each of the type of cereal from the brand names. I was first made aware of it by Fruity O's, which are Fruit Loop copies, Frosted Flakes, which even share the same name, Cheerios, and so on. President's Choice is owned by Loblaws, the same brand that owns No Frills. Therefore, they have control over where to place their own products, and they strategically place them beside their brand name copies. With a lower price, they are simply causing people to switch with a very effective strategy. This is clearly a way Loblaws is using the popularity of other brands in order to push their own products. Slash the prices and you poach a potential customer. The next section is where things begin to get interesting. We now begin to see the healthy and organic cereal brands. But wait a second. The first cereal on the shelf at eye level, the most expensive shelf space, is Kashi. There are no major labels on it, and I don't know enough about it to know its origins. Even looking at the side of the box, we see that even in the contact portion of the address, the Kashi Corporation. Nothing else. But a little research can tell you that it is owned by Kellogg's, and yet that red logo is nowhere to be seen. The same Kellogg's that makes all those sugary cereals for children is trying to rebrand itself for those that are health conscious. Alpen is another healthy variety of cereal, and again, there is no branding anywhere from a major corporation. Are they separate from these corporations? Nope, they are made by Weet-Bix, company that is owned by Post, the same company that sells the popular Sugar Crisp cereal. Things are getting more interesting now, so let's continue. The final aisle of cereals is the place where you can slightly get more options from different companies. Jordan's, Nature's Path, and Barbara's are 3 companies that do not fall in line with all the previous ones. They are no small companies by any stretch of the imagination, but they do not compare to those large corporations. But what is interesting is that for the first time you feel like you can pick something different, and yet the types of cereals each of these brands make are already made by those large corporations. Reese Puffs and Leaping Lemurs, Nesquik and Choco Chimps, Puffins and Mini Wheats, and on it goes. It is clear that my findings match the conclusions made in the supermarket tour. These large corporations basically own everything we consume, and deviating from that is hard. In some cases, it is clear that they use marketing to their advantage to try to think that the consumer is picking up a more premium or health-conscious brand, when in fact they're all owned by the same company that makes the cereals, those individuals who would actually try to avoid. This was not really a surprise. What really was a surprise is that even when you feel like you have a choice in these smaller brands, their products are mere copies of items you already know about. Why would someone who has seen Nesquik commercials their entire lives, so from the time they were a child, and is craving some chocolate cereal, walk past them and reach for some Choco Chimps? I doubt anybody analyzes their cereal buying process this much. Most simply go for what they want and keep it moving. But it's just interesting to know that the story on the surface is very different than when you go in debt. This has been the theme of the entire supermarket tour, and how it uncovers so many issues with things we perceive as part of our daily lives. The effects of pesticides and GMOs, the poor treatment of livestock, the contribution of food production to global warming, and even the prevalent issues of food insecurity are things that most people don't think about or don't even know about. Even as I did my research for the project, standing in the supermarket aisle, it was evident that most people shopping were not critically choosing each product, but rather completing their daily to-do list. Like the tour mentioned, everything comes down to appearance, convenience, and cost, and supermarkets champion that. Personally, this experience just made me realize that nothing in the grocery store is really as it seems. If you had asked me last week, I would tell you that Kashi is definitely an independent brand that is focused on making healthier products, and it would never strike me that they were owned by Kellogg's. I would have no idea that President's Choice used their ability to choose their specific aisle placement in order to snatch customers. Even when you think you can pick up something different, that they're exactly the same type of cereal. All these issues outlined in the supermarket tour can be made less severe in the average consumer educated themselves about the choice they made in the grocery store. Much like I didn't know all these things about the cereal aisle before exploring it, I was also unaware of all the issues of the food industry before reading the supermarket tour. The best part about it was that it actually provided ways for consumers to take action that actually has an impact. Things like eating less meat, consuming local products, going to council meetings are all things that individuals can do to empower themselves. The issues become greater the moment someone is uninformed and they support companies with unethical practices without knowing it. This is where their power affects our choice, and this was made all too clear through my exploration of the cereal aisle.